We are aware of the eras of time like Christian era, Saka era, etc. Era is a long and distinct period of history. It is a system of chronologically dating from a particular event in history. Christian era for Christians originated with the birth of Christ, and the Saka era was linked with the Indran of ancient Lanka. Tamils had an era called Kali Yuga, which originated with the death of Krishna about 5100 years ago and is used as a continuous year marker to record historical events. With the end of Mayan calendar, the Kali Yuga also ended, and we are living in Satya Yuga ever since. Apart from such long eras of time, there is a short and repetitive cyclical eras of 60 years. We are going to discuss the origin and purpose of the 60-year cycles of time in this video. The 60-year cycles are in use among East and Southeast Asian countries and in South India. The South Indians and Chinese have 60-year cycles, but the Chinese zodiac is different from the Indian zodiac. This is due to the fact that the Chinese calendar originated from a different base than the present-day South Indian calendar. Before proceeding further, I have to stress an important fact that the people who gave the various calendar systems to the world were Tamils. This is due to the fact Tamil is the root language of the present world, and Tamil civilization was the root civilization. However, we talk about Babylonian calendar, Hindu or Vedic calendar, Mayan calendar, or the Western calendar, but never Tamil calendar, which was actually the source of all calendars of the world. It is said that the Babylonian calendar is the earliest of all calendars, which is quite untrue. The fact that it was Tamils who contributed to the modern calendar shall be established by the fact that the 12 zodiacs were created by Vishnu to represent the history of Tamils, and the clear meaning of each of the zodiac sign was published by me through the video The Capricorn Zodiac and the Amazing History of Mankind. A further point to be noted is that no other culture has established the meaning behind the 12 zodiacs yet. I would first brief the chronological order of the evolution of various types of calendars of the world. The first calendar of humanity was Lunar Calendar, which is exactly the same as Islamic calendar, and this first calendar was created by Shiva in the Lemurian continent. The next calendar was created by Murugan in ancient Lanka immediately after the deluge for agricultural purposes, and it was a rudimentary form of what is called as Siddharial calendar. As Murugan was a Siddha, the calendar created by him was called Siddhar plus EL, Siddharial calendar. Murugan created the first ever zodiac remembering Shiva and called it Siddhar Orai. Murugan referenced this zodiac to identify the birth of his new agricultural year, as it was Murugan who invented agriculture. Appearance of Siddhar Orai at the eastern horizon at a specific time in the early morning heralded the start of New Year, and every month had 30 days each, while the last month had 35 or 36 days. The combined zodiac of Taurus, Orion, and Canis Major was called Siddhar Orai, where the word Siddhar refers to Shiva and Orai is a Tamil equivalent of zodiac. Zodiac is also a word of Tamil origin. The Tamil word Sodi means decorate, and the celestial figure made by connecting the stars was obviously called sodium, which deformed to zodiac in English. It pays to realize that all the calendrical names like year, month, week, day, hour, minute, and second are of Tamil origin, and treating them would be beyond the scope of this video. A special video would be published soon proving the Tamil origin of these calendrical names. Indra, who was the prince of Lanka about 7000 years ago, modified the lunar calendar of Shiva by adjusting it with the intercalary extra month every 3 years to synchronize with the sidereal calendar of Murugan. This was called the Saka calendar and is still followed in many parts of India and Southeast Asia. There is another calendar which coexisted with the sidereal calendar, which was calculated based on either solstices or equinoxes. This is called tropical calendar, and this is obviously the agricultural calendar. Tarai plus EL, Tarai EL, Travial, Trapial, tropical. The word tropical originated from the word Tarai, meaning ground, as the observation for the start of the year is made on the ground, identifying either the solstices or equinoxes, whereas the sidereal calendar was calculated by observing the zodiacs of the sky. Julian or Georgian calendar the world follows today is of tropical time. The sidereal calendar and the tropical calendar are intimately connected to each other. In fact, Murugan started the sidereal calendar on the winter solstice. However, the difference between tropical calendar and sidereal calendar is that tropical calendar is relatively non-drifting calendar, while sidereal calendar is a drifting one and hence to be readjusted periodically with the tropical calendar. The sidereal calendar was improved by Vishnu about 3800 years ago, which is known as Rasi calendar or Zodiac calendar, and it is the calendar that is followed today in Tamil Nadu, Kerala and Assam, etc. of India. Vishnu too started his version of sidereal calendar from vernal equinox, which falls on March 22nd. Murugan's version of sidereal calendar depended on a single zodiac called Siddharvari, which identified the start of new year. Vishnu's version of sidereal calendar depended on 12 zodiacs, each of which identified the start of the respective new month. For this purpose, Vishnu created 11 more zodiacs, immortalizing the historical personages or characters in chronological order. Vishnu is the greatest astronomer the world has ever known. The zodiac calendar was developed by Vishnu about 3800 years ago. I said that the sidereal calendar is a drifting calendar. It is this drift which necessitated the 60 cyclic years. In fact, the 60 cyclic years originated from two different perspectives. One of the perspectives explains the sexagenaric years of the Chinese and the ancient Tamils, and the other perspective adds one more dimension to the 60-year cycles of Tamils. We would now see what these two different perspectives are. The Chinese were originally the survivors of the deluge of the Lemurian continent. Murugan, who became the god of humanity since his nirvana, saved them from the deluge and moved to and settled in southern Lanka. As Murugan was the ground king, he was called a dragon, and he later became the god of the Chinese people. A section of his people, long after the times of Murugan, left Lanka and settled in a land presently called as China. Murugan had the knowledge of the 7 celestial bodies, and he also created 7 conceptual deities called Saptamada, representing a celestial body each. Each of these deities represented a stage of human life, and thus human life had 7 stages. A stage of life is the time that Jupiter took to revolve around the sun, which is nearly 12 years. The first stage is the stage of ignorance, identified by the color black, and the goddess Kali represented this stage, and the other attribute of this deity is that she is the goddess of war and her planet is Saturn. The next stage represents sexual development, identified by the color blue, and goddess Neelambike represented this stage, and the other attribute of this deity is that she is the goddess of love and her planet is moon. The next and third stage represents procreation, identified by the color green, and the goddess Pachema represented this stage, and the other attribute of this deity is that she is the goddess of agriculture and her planet is Venus. The fourth stage represents hard labor, identified by the color red, and the goddess Lakshmi represented this stage, and the other attribute of this deity is that she is the goddess of household and her planet is Mars. The fifth stage represents wealth, identified by golden yellow color, and the goddess Matangi represented this stage, and the other attribute of this deity is that she is the goddess of prosperity and her planet is Mercury. The sixth stage represents wisdom, identified by the color white, and the goddess Saraswati represented this stage, and the other attribute of this deity is that she is the goddess of fine arts and her planet is Jupiter. The seventh and the final stage represents the path to moksha, identified by transparency, and the goddess Ganga represented this stage, and the other attribute of this deity is that she is the goddess of nirvana and she is the deity of sun. When a person reaches the sixth stage, he is 60 years old as he crossed the previous 5 stages, as each stage is 12 years long. But when he reaches 60 years, he enters the stage of wisdom. Hereon, he contributes to his family and the world not through his physical labor but through his wisdom. Thus, he retires from his physical responsibilities to the family. The onset of the sixth stage is celebrated grandly by the individual's children and grandchildren, both among Tamils and the Chinese. This practice seems to have originated from the times of Murugan, who created the Saptamada concept about 11,000 years ago. That's the reason both Tamils and Chinese people are following this tradition. However, this event is named as Arubadam Kalyanam in Tamil culture, which is celebrated as the renewal of marriage when one of the couple reaches 60 years of age. The Chinese celebrate this event just as 60th birthday of their parents. In Tamil culture, a section of such people who attain this stage undertakes social service, propagating education, wisdom, ethics, and virtue among the masses. The idea behind this service-oriented retired life is that only when the society is a morally bound society that any single family would lead a happy and comfortable life. If you want to keep your family safe, then make the world safe. And these people of wisdom strives to keep the world safe in Tamil culture. This is the origin of 60-year cycle. The 60 sequential years were named discreetly. A person born in a particular year would celebrate his 60th birthday in the same year in the next cycle. Thus, in human life, entering the Saraswati stage of life is a significant event, and hence 60 cyclic years was conceived most probably by Murugan, which is followed both by Tamils and Chinese. This shall be surmised by the fact that, like Tamils, the Chinese also have female goddesses, and many of them are seated on lotus, a proof that they originated from Murugan. The dragon representing Murugan, being the god of Chinese people, presents additional proof. This is despite the fact that the original Chinese religion was badly affected by the advent of Buddhism and later by communism. I said earlier that cyclic years originated from 2 different perspectives. So far, we have discussed the first perspective. We shall now consider the second perspective. I hypothesized with reason that Murugan should have conceived the 60-year cycle originally, but that 60-year cycle had additional meaning and need when Vishnu created the Zodiac Calendar, which is the improved form of sidereal calendar originally created by Murugan. I said that tropical year doesn't need adjustment, while the sidereal year needs periodic adjustment to be used as agricultural calendar. Why? Anchored to solstices or equinoxes, the tropical year is naturally synchronized with the seasons and hence it doesn't need adjustment. On the other hand, we know that the sidereal calendar is reference to zodiac. If the rise of the zodiac in the eastern horizon is always synchronized with the respective solstice or equinox, then sidereal calendar would be exactly identical with the tropical calendar. However, we see that the appearance of the zodiac is delayed with respect to the respective solstice or equinox by 24 minutes every year. Thus, The birth of the tropical New Year and the sidereal New Year differs by 24 minutes in the end of the first year and 48 minutes in the end of the second year and 72 minutes in the end of the third year and so on. As 24 multiplied by 60 is equal to 1440 minutes, which is the duration of a day. In 60 years, difference in the onset of tropical New Year and the sidereal New Year would be one full day. Thus, every 60 years, the difference would increase by one day. Suppose if the tropical New Year and the sidereal New Year are properly synchronized on March 22nd, the day of vernal equinox, with the rise of Taurus zodiac in the eastern horizon, then after 60 years, the tropical New Year would still start on March 22nd, while the sidereal New Year would start one day later, that is, on March 23rd, when the Taurus zodiac rises in the eastern horizon. In the next 60 years, the sidereal New Year would move to March 24 and so on. Thus, in 1800 years, the sidereal New Year would be delayed from the tropical New Year by one whole month. That is, the sidereal New Year would start on April 22nd. As there are 12 zodiacs, one for each month, if the rise of the Taurus zodiac moves to April 22, then Aries zodiac would appear on vernal equinox, and this becomes the year-defining zodiac for the next 1800 years, and hence the sidereal New Year is also reset to March 22 again. That is, the last year of the Taurus zodiac would have only 11 months and not 12 months. Likewise, in the next 1800 years, the new sidereal year would be governed by the Pisces zodiac and so on. Thus, roughly every 2000 years, the zodiac of the year would be different in sidereal year system. Roughly 3800 years ago, Vishnu started the sidereal calendar on vernal equinox, that is on March 22nd, with Taurus as the year-defining zodiac. Roughly 2000 years ago, Aries was made the year-defining zodiac, replacing Taurus. Since then, every 60 years, the New Year date of the sidereal year was increased by one day, and that's how Tamil New Year defined by Aries zodiac is falling on April 14 presently. Actually, Tamil New Year should start on April 22nd as of now, as the Pisces zodiac is appearing presently on vernal equinox on March 22nd. However, since Telugu started ruling Tamil 700 years ago, the culture of observational correction of the Tamil calendar was disrupted, and this should have happened about 480 years ago, thus explaining the loss of 8 days. Just like the sidereal New Year shifted from vernal equinox on March 22 by 22 days and now falls on April 14, the Pongal festival, which is supposed to fall on winter solstice on December 22nd, also shifted to January 14, the same 22 days. We shall now consider why the sidereal calendar is drifting. The zodiacs, being far away from us, are relatively fixed in the sky for the time period of consideration, and hence they are not changing or moving. The earth is no doubt revolving around the sun, and hence it is indeed going through the 12 zodiacs every year. If the sun is fixed in space with respect to the zodiacs, then the regular and exact periodic movement of earth around the sun would not cause the drift of the zodiacs with respect to any fixed reference point of time like equinoxes. On the other hand, consider the case if the sun is also moving across the zodiac. This scenario would result in the drift of the zodiacs with respect to any fixed reference point of time like equinoxes. That is what is exactly happening. The sun is found to move in a circular orbit, and the orbital period is about 24,000 years, though not exactly known. We know that Earth is moving in the anti-clockwise direction with respect to the zodiacs. Which way the sun is moving? The fact that the sidereal year is longer than the tropical year by 24 minutes proves the fact that the sun is moving in the clockwise direction. If the sun doesn't move at all, then sidereal year and the tropical year would be technically the same. But if the sun is also moving in the same anti-clockwise direction like Earth, then sidereal year would be shorter than the tropical year. The fact that the sidereal year is longer than the tropical year establishes the fact that sun is moving in the clockwise direction. It is indeed obvious that sun should be moving in the clockwise direction with respect to the zodiac. Why? The zodiacs themselves were arranged in the direction of movement of the sun by Vishnu, the ancient astronomer. The zodiac represented historical personages and they were arranged in the chronological order of history. The first zodiac, the Taurus, represents the first historical personage called Shiva, who lived in the Lemurian continent about 20,000 years ago. The next zodiac, the Aries, represents Murugan, who lived about 11,000 years ago during the deluge of Lemurian continent. The next two zodiacs, the Pisces and Aquarius, represents Ravana, Indra and Kumbhakarna respectively, the heroes of Ramayana war that happened 7,000 years ago. The next 8 zodiacs represent the characters of Mahabharata war that happened 5,100 years ago. When Vishnu measured the difference of sidereal year with respect to the tropical year based on Taurus zodiac, the difference came about 24 minutes. There are 24 hours in a day and there are 60 minutes for each hour. Thus, this drifting time per annum, which is 24 minutes, is 1/60th of a day. Thus, if the zodiac has to drift by one day, it would happen in 60 years. That's why every 60 years, that is, when a new 60-year cycle starts, the Tamil astronomers would shift the new year date by one day from the previous day. This is the second perspective for the 60-year cycle that I referred to earlier. As the 24-minute drift happens per year, and as it would take 60 years for drifting by one day, this measure of time was named in Tamil as Nalihai, where Nal means a day and Ahavai means age or year. As Y means the light of the birth star through which our age is estimated, Ahavai means 1 year. We have seen that it takes 60 years to make up a day of drift. Let me repeat. It takes 60 years to make up a day of drift. Nal plus Ahavai, Nalahavai, Nalihavai, Nalihai, Nalihai. The etymology of the word Nalihai proves that it originated from the drift of the zodiac. Otherwise, there is no need to define Nalihai as 24 minutes long and 60 Nalihai making a day. Thus, one of the units of measurement of time of Tamils itself originated from the apparent movement of the zodiac due to the actual movement of the sun across the zodiacs. For Tamils, there are 60 Nalihai in a day, but each Nalihai is 24 minutes. This was reverted in English calendar with 24 hours a day and 60 minutes per hour. Ancient Tamils had their own system of measures for time like Matirai, Uyir, Anu, Tuli, Nalihai, Yamam, Nal, Varam, Madam, Varudam, etc. I said that the sidereal year has to be advanced every 60 years by one day, and when 30 days are advanced in this way over a period of 1800 years, the calendar would be reset to coincide with the equinox on March 22nd with the next zodiac. This would go on for all the 12 zodiacs over a period of 24,000 years roughly. We should be aware that the time distances between consecutive zodiacs are not equal, which reflects in different lengths of time for months. We also don't know the exact time of revolution of the sun in its orbital path and the angle, if any, of the plane of the orbit of the Sun with the ecliptic. One shall ask that the sidereal system is so complicated that why not we use only tropical calendar instead of the sidereal calendar? The answer is very simple. Had Tamils not embarked on the zodiac based calendar system, we would not have discovered that Sun is actually moving in an orbit. Only when Tamils started observing zodiac with respect to solstices or equinoxes that they realized the drift of the zodiac and hence the movement of the Sun. However, not realizing the circular movement of the Sun, the other astronomers who were aware that the so-called pole star changes over a long periods of time felt that Earth is nutating like a top. This is a stupid explanation, and the dynamics of a top cannot be applied to the spinning Earth, and the Earth is not really nutating. The actual reason for the change of pole star is that the Earth, along with the orbiting Sun, is traversing a very large section of space over a period of 24,000 years, and this obviously changes the pole star in different eras of time. If the Sun is not moving, then the pole star would be permanent. It is that simple. The second and the most important reason why sidereal calendar was chosen by Vishnu is that the Tamil astrology is intimately related to the zodiac, and this necessitates the use of sidereal calendar, as astrology and calendar are intimately connected. As astrology deals with the impact of planets and zodiacs on earthly beings, and as Earth moves in the anti-clockwise direction, the astrological houses are counted in the anti-clockwise direction, while the arrangement of zodiac houses are in the clockwise direction, which is the direction of movement of Sun across the zodiac space. The zodiac houses are arranged in chronological order in clockwise direction, with the Taurus being the first.